Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Hello, 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 one and all. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I hope you all are doing well. I'm doing amazing. I am enjoying this rainy overcast of a day that I'm having where I am. It's been raining literally all day long with a few breaks in between. But it's that peaceful, tranquil, that sweet rain that makes you feel like snug inside, especially if you don't have to go out in it. But it just makes you feel like, I don't know, besides the peacefulness and the serenity, for me it actually makes me feel a little bit on the sexy side, if you know what I mean. It's giving Netflix and chill vibes. It's the Netflix, maybe not so much chill, if you feel me. But baby, that's just me. It's just that type of rain though, But anyway, I don't know if that has any significance for the reading today. I'll try not to influence the vibes with my prejudice of passion. But maybe it's what we need, or what the spirit is calling for right now. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, it's given in alignment with Scorpio vibes. We know there's a little bit of passion and I guess passion is probably too mild of a word when we're talking about Scorpio. Honestly, it's quite seductive and alluring of an energy. So maybe there's just a little bit of that in this transit right now. Maybe even a invitation to release some of that passion, if not in a way that is safe and secure and sound, perhaps channeling it to something productive, whatever that may be. I ain't judging. But you know what? Hold on one second, because I need a tissue. If you don't mind, give me one sec. My nose is just a little, my allergies were a little bit funny. Well, not too bad, but I've just been a little sniffly today. Just a sudden drip. Pause. Out of nowhere, and I don't want to be sniffing through the whole message. So thank you for your patience. All right, I'll keep that on standby. And as you can see, we're back to the black and white cards. I'm back to simplicity today. I love the challenge of my Game of Thrones deck, but I'm bringing it back home for today. But I'm going to try to whip them out more often so that I can really get more comfortable with channeling with those and maybe not get so lost in the messages from the series, or maybe more lost. I don't know, whatever it calls for, but I'm looking to find my rhythm with those cards because I enjoy the challenge so much. I just want to make sure that I'm conveying as concise of a message as I can. So anyway, we'll see what we got here today. I'm not even going to cut it again. Let's just keep it raw and see where we are right here. Ooh, the High Priestess. Oh my gosh, definitely mysterious, mystical. My goodness. Well, really traditionally could be, let's say, quite the opposite of the vibes that I'm picking up, like the high priestess can be not exclusive, or limited to, but it can be an energy that's a bit more chaste, that is perhaps even celibate, or abstinent, whichever one applies. That is definitely conservative of her sacred energy and selective about whom she shares it with. Very selective, even sharing, not just sharing like herself, in a physical form, but even what she knows or what she perceives, or her emotions may kind of be kept on lock, like in a sacred holding place, to translate it into like a love energy. It just could be someone that is so mysterious that you may not even know how deeply she feels about a thing or for a person or toward a place. You may not know it, I'll say, by what she says, but I feel like with the high priestess is there's a certain frequency that pardon me, for the last couple messages I've been battling my throat, but there's a certain frequency that is like undeniable. Like you can kind of feel the energy like pulsating, vibrating off of someone in a high priestess energy, like the type of feminine or masculine that carries this frequency, that when they walk into a room or they enter your force field or you enter theirs, there's something there's a magneticism that you can feel, and you may not even be able to explain it, put your finger on it, understand it in some ways. Like there's an attractive force with the high priestess that is more or less unspoken, and sometimes because it's unspoken, one way or the other, it can be misunderstood. But it definitely is sacred, and it's special, it's unique. This is not, somebody that's for the streets per se, in spirit or in flesh. This is somebody that is quite aware of the value of their presence, so that means it's not even a matter, we can dumb it down to sexual energy or intimacy or even physical attraction, but it's really deeper than that and even higher than that for the high priestess, because it's just someone that really knows how impressionable her energy is in any atmosphere she steps into. And she's going to most likely, because it's the intention behind the high priestess to do so, leave any person, place, or thing better off than how she found them or how she first encountered them. There's a lasting impression that's left behind. So take that as you will, but again, it's definitely about knowing your worth and value, not settling for anything that is less than divine. Like we can just go ahead and say it with the high priestess. It's not just the regular queen, not even the empress, where of course there is an ideal of an elevated standard. The high priestess is even more ascended than that, ideally, where there may not even be a title or position of power, so to speak, that she occupies, anything material, or carnal or physical that would project her so-called importance. But again, it's just an energy that is felt, and it's a sensation that precedes her, in presence and lingers. It's like when you encounter someone that wears a really nice fragrance, like something that's very that the pheromones of the fragrance are just sensational. You know, they evoke some type of feeling in you. Like there's a satisfaction in what you're what you're smelling, you know, and what how that sense, that physical sense is tantalized, you know, so to speak. And I've experienced it with other women where, you know, like you almost have to ask, like, what are you wearing? You know, sometimes I get a whiff of my my own collection. You know, I wear like layers of fragrances, and sometimes I get a whiff of it at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh man, I still smell good. And sometimes you wonder how you smell, or what experience others may have of you in passing by, you know what I mean? But and especially, oh good Lord, on a good smelling man, my God, it's nothing more satisfying than being in the presence of a man who smells good and their energy matches. So all of that, you know, in the more primitive sense, is the encounter of a high priestess. You know, it's just like a sweet or sensual fragrance in the air that is unlike anything else you have ever encountered. It's very unique. You know what I mean? It seems like having a signature fragrance. Like I said, I layer different things, so there's nobody else that's walking around smelling like me, because there is no fragrance made up of all the things that I put on. You know, it's that, but energetically, you know, of an experience of a person where it's like just something about them. I don't know what it is. It may not even be all that pretty, may not even be all that sexy to the naked eye, you know, may not be all that fine or handsome or fly, or, you know, whatever the case may be by societal standards, you know, but it's something about them that you just can't help but notice and appreciate. So we're talking about an energy such as that, and hell, maybe you might be an energy such as that. I sure hope so. Cheers to you if so. But let's just start from scratch and see what we got here today. Okay. Ooh, we got somebody willing to put in the work. The Eight of Pentacles is definitely somebody with their eye on the prize, dedicated, committed to whatever it is that they're looking to achieve or create, build. Let's see what we got with that. What's that? Oh, the Ace of Pentacles. Wow. I should have taken it, but it flipped back over, so I'll be fair. But damn, that's dope. See, now I'm going to speak on that, because the Ace, this is somebody that knows what they're working toward. And it's funny, because when I was looking at him and all of this like assembly line of pentacles, I was thinking like, this could be someone, all right, I feel it multiple ways, but like how I just explained the energy of the high priestess, where it's like one of a kind, you know, and here it is, this is like an assembly line of the same thing, which in some cases is amazing, you know, it's consistent, it's reliable, but it's the opposite of what I would consider to be something that is special, you know, where it's one of one. It can't be recreated, it can't be manufactured, it can't be duplicated. And someone might even try, with the Eight of Pentacles to try to like build a bitch, so to speak, like having a muse in mind as such as the High Priestess, which once, like I said, once you encounter that frequency, whether it's masculine or feminine, you never forget it. And you might spend the rest of your days either trying to find it in other people or something similar or something close to, or actually going a step further and trying to actually create it, like to inspire, God forbid, you take a woman and try to almost make her to be what you feel the ideal woman is, or at least by your preference or by your past experience. And that's what I was looking at with the Eight of Pentacles, because it was kind of a contrast to all that I just said. And then of course with the Eight of Pentacles is what I meant to say if I didn't. But then with the Ace of Pentacles popping in and popping out, perfect energy, because it's like you don't just get to have that. It's like a needle in a haystack type of thing. And if you are so graced, and so blessed to come across it, this once in a lifetime opportunity or encounter or acquaintance even, it's something that should be reverenced, appreciated at least, and highly valued. Like that's finding that diamond in the rough, but not recognizing it and throwing it, back into the mines or into the pile with the rest of the rocks, until you realize like, damn, that was the one. And you try to get busy trying to, mine the fields again for that other one or similar one, and realize that you never can quite recover that once in a lifetime chance. That Ace of Pentacles is divine, and it almost never shows itself, I would say, in more than once in a lifetime. Now you may find something else, like for instance, like you could think that an encounter, even if it is, a beautiful exchange or experience, was the only thing. Like you sometimes we can have those moments too, where it's like, oh, if it can't be her, if it can't be him, it can't be nobody. And then you find out down the line that actually there is something especially perfect for you, and it almost makes the other thing pale, and the past experience pale into comparison, or it prepares you to really encounter what is for you. It could work that way too. But I'm really getting a sensibility about, especially with this Eight of Pentacles, the way that I see it in contrast to someone that feels like they missed out, But let's see. Let's get one to see. Okay, did I touch a nerve? Because I was also going to say it's either somebody that is trying to recreate that moment in time, or they've been so inspired by a special encounter that, like I said, they're willing to put in the work, maybe perhaps even on themselves, to match that energy. That could be a thing too. It literally could be either or. Okay. Oh, well, my goodness. 10 of Swords. Somebody betrayed themselves or played themselves, one of the two. That's what I'm getting there. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know what I felt, but it definitely could work the other way too. Let me just get a sip of water. It could be, the higher frequency, of course, where maybe perhaps somebody is done with sabotaging themselves for dupes, literally, like counterfeits and secondhand, you know what I mean? Like second best. And they're willing to put in the work for the whole prize, like for the one. Because the Ace of Pentacles can also even be a proposal. So it could be someone that's kind of tired of playing the field with clones and, counterfeits that just squeak by, because it doesn't ever really end well with the Ten of Swords. It always ends in a breakup or a dissatisfaction, and worst case scenario, some type of betrayal. It could even be someone that continuously self-sabotages themselves in the cycle of picking the same type of person or same type of opportunity, kind of staying in a pocket of a comfort zone because it's familiar, and they're kind of wanting to get out of that rut, and there's something here with the Ten of Swords that may be ushering someone, maybe some tragic realization, perhaps. I don't know, like whatever the Ten of Swords is, it's the end of an era, but it's come at a great cost and casualty, perhaps to someone's peace of mind. It's like the wake-up call that you wish you didn't like you wish you didn't stay asleep for, like you almost wish you would have woken up before the alarm. Like if you're anything like me, I don't really like to be awakened abruptly. So sometimes if my body wakes up before the alarm, I'm pretty grateful for that, because I'll just, even if it's a little early, I'll turn it off and just get up. But this is like, sleeping, maybe somebody even hitting snooze one too many times, really. And then it's like that final time when you look at the clock and it's like, oh shoot, you didn't hit snooze about 5 times, not even realizing it, and now you're about to be late, you know what I mean, for whatever. And now you got to get up and rush and, get yourself together. But it's like somebody that kind of like, what do they call it? Bought their time to, when you buy, is it buy time, bide or buy time? I don't know. But whatever that saying is, like they procrastinated. There it is. There was some procrastination here. Again, it could even be on an opportunity, a proposition, a once in a lifetime chance that somebody may have thought they could pick up anytime, anywhere. Maybe they didn't see it. Like I said, that diamond in the rough effect that somebody didn't quite notice at the time. That they thought, oh, I could get that anywhere. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You know what I mean? That type of mentality. Or they thought so highly of themselves, that they could attract whatever they desired, and whatever, and get this, whatever they couldn't attract, they could make it. This is the arrogance of someone that felt like they make the partnership dynamic what it is. So they could take somebody off the street and make them a princess if they so desired to. But certainly at a certain caliber of attraction, maybe from the dating pool that they revered themselves to be swimming in, they felt like, oh, I could just, have my pick. Any of these ones will do, and whichever one that is so blessed and blissed to have met me, because it's a pleasure to meet me, will ultimately rise to the occasion of that once in a lifetime opportunity, or I'll just get another one, and so on and so forth. So like I said, this is like a rude awakening, maybe even somebody coming of age to a point, like I said, hitting that snooze button, and now there's a maturity level here, that one is like rudely awakening to, or having a jolting awareness of, that is first of all, there aren't that many fish in the sea, maybe ones that kind of look like a good catch but not so much, or things that kind of get old and boring once you get into it, but there also isn't all that much time to be playing games, like like I said, the 10 of Swords is the end of an era, and not a great one. And when somebody is looking up at what they have ultimately, like what they've manifested with their time, their energy, their efforts, their attention for what they've invested, it's like it's not really matching up. Like the math ain't mathing. The means don't justify the end, or the end doesn't justify the means, whichever one makes sense. And it's just feeling like a loss, a great loss. All right, let's move on. I'm gonna just get a couple pairs on the board. I will say I've never had to restart so much in all of my shuffling. It's like, I don't know which one I should, if it came out like this. So I guess I'll do this here, like that. And whatever that means, it's like, I don't know, like the cards are being, well, I guess that could be that secretive, mystical, mysterious energy also of Scorpio that kind of wants to leave you guessing, or not necessarily reveal all of its cards, but eventually the veil has to come off, doesn't it? So anyway, we got the 2 of Wands, and we got the 6 of Pentacles, right? The 2 of Wands is, well, okay, I'll just say this real plain. To me, it feels like somebody reviewing how they treated people. The decision making is in the 2 of Wands, in the direction that somebody decided to go, even with the mentality, I would say in this case, like the world is theirs, because in the 2 of Wands, he's holding the World card. Like, I kind of just affirming what I said in the last pair about somebody's arrogance, about their choices, their possibilities, their potential for pleasure and satisfaction, their position in life with the 6 of Pentacles, like almost seeing themselves as superior to others in some way, maybe not in a diabolical sense, but in some imbalanced way. There was, I don't know, like I'm getting like what do you call it? Like when you say like not visions of grandeur, but maybe so. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, because even with the Two of Wands, it's kind of like surveying the land and having like taking inventory of your horizons, you know, like your possibilities. And as I said, it was someone that saw themselves in a much more maybe grandiose light, you know, than, and maybe they were in that light at one point in time, but as I said, like time moves on, you know, and eras shift, and it's like somebody has aged out in the sense of an era of when it would have been partially reasonable to present themselves in kind of like a superior light and to revere themselves as such, because maybe they had the evidence of it. You know, maybe they actually had the evidence of people that were willing to kind of grovel at their feet and do anything they could to be a part of their force field, and, you know, almost kind of like submit themselves to their presence in a sense. You know, this could be somebody that is highly affluent or achieved, you know, in some type of way, successful in a way that puts them on a bit of a pedestal in terms of what's considered a good catch, so that other people look at them as that as well, you know, and kind of perpetuate their the inflated ego that they have cultivated, I guess. I don't know, like grown, I guess, over time. But that, like I said, this is also reflecting now on how someone did treat their so-called options, how they looked down on others, or how they took advantage maybe of other people when they had like the privilege to do so in some way, and maybe reconsidering, you know, that activity and what has it yielded to this point. Because feeling like you were better than somebody, or like you had the drop on people that just were standing in line to be a part of your world, literally just gleaning from any little breadcrumb of attention you're willing to give them or throw their way, doesn't really yield much fruit in the long run, especially if that's where your self-esteem is stopped, you know. So now if someone's looking around and there's really no one groveling at their feet, or the quality of the groveling, back to that Eight of Pentacles, is just not really giving what it used to give, if it ever was, and there's this deep-seated desire for something more, but now there really isn't the opportunity for that satisfaction, you know what I mean? Because somebody's pretty much squandered all of their energy and time in a lower frequency that didn't really condition them to actually magneticize themselves to the satisfaction that they're seeking. Meaning, like, didn't really put somebody's been thinking that they were hot shit for so long and being glamored by their surroundings to believe such, that they didn't really see the need to enhance their character or their qualities for the sake of what their heart would really desire, you know what I mean, or what would really be worth achieving or acquiring. That something that you could say like, oh yeah, I did that, or that's me right there, or you know what I mean, like something to really be proud of or aroused by or intrigued by. Now they're just kind of stuck with the run-of-the-mill, literally mill, fabricated energies that they have either surrounded themselves with, that don't really possess that quality of uniqueness that is engaging and captivating, or nothing at all, like literally nothing, or so low quality that it might as well be nothing, nothing of interest, I'll say. Pardon me. So, oh my, what a tangle web we weave, but let's move on. See what else we got as time is running out. Yeah, and like this is the desire now. This 10 of Cups, like now it's like happiness, which was an afterthought before, is now, or maybe was, like, yeah, I would say an afterthought, because this is, again, it's connected to this ideal that somebody always felt like they could catch up to what they truly wanted. Like, oh, I'm gonna just do this right now, I'm gonna just play this game right now, play with these people right now, maybe sow my wild oats, whatever the case may be. And I'll get to the real stuff later. I got time for that. It'll be there when I get there, and I don't know. Will it is the question, or at least the question that many have right now, because they're looking around and it's like what they have to work with is bleak compared to what they aspire to. Like what somebody is working with, the options, the so-called fish in the sea, don't really have the qualities of what a long-term resonance as like the 10 of Cups would feel like. It's not even about material anymore, or passion, or temptation, or position, achievement, success. You know what I mean? It's literally about somebody's feelings now with the 10 of Cups. Now somebody is thoughtful about actually achieving an expression of happiness that is fulfilling. And they weren't considering that before. There was no urgency for it because it was believed that it could either be supplemented with all those other things that I named, and that maybe it didn't have that high of a value at all, or that it could always be achieved at at the whim or beck and call of whomever I'm speaking of decided to desire it. It's like they thought they could turn on a switch and like, oh, I'm gonna go get love now. Oh, I'm gonna go be happy now. Oh, I'm gonna go have the happy wife, happy life now. You know what I mean? It's like, but where, how, with whom? Like on whose orders? You know what I mean? Like it's weird. And even if they could, turn a hoe into a housewife, that's kind of a raw expression, but I just feel it. Like that's what it is. That's what it's given. Or just someone that they're not really all that interested in. Like they thought they could, like, I just turn any one of these into my happily ever after. They're realizing that it's just not that simple. It's not that simple to actually pull that off. And it's not that simple to make yourself feel satisfied with that, no matter what you do. And this is somebody that could even be just as committed to and determined to create that effect, but they're failing at every turn because you just can't fake fulfillment. You can't fake it till you make it to that. It will always fall short. There will always be a void. in that satisfaction when it's not with the person that you desire or are meant to connect with. It's not doing the things or the thing that you are guided to do, divinely. If it's not being in the place where you thrive the most and with the people that you thrive with the most, because this doesn't even have to be romantic. This could be soul tribe, like somebody trying to make friendships fit, or connections fit in a way that just don't mesh, and they may feel they have all the gifts and talents in the world. Like they may feel like the Beyonce or the Michael of any group that they submit themselves to, but it's still about what you surround yourself with. So whether it's romantic, platonic, professional, creative, it's familial, it's still gonna fall short no matter what. If it's not pure, that is. And this person also has to take accountability for their own tainted perspective, which we've discussed since the beginning of this reading, like how they feel about themselves and how they feel about other people. There's something impure and distorted about it that, it's a far cry from the high priestess. Is like giving the energy of somebody feeling like they're on this pedestal, they're sacred, they're sanctified, they're holy, they're holier than thou is the energy. But really, they're no better than the people that they look down on, in every way, shape, and form. They're really and that could even be a rude awakening and a stark reality for someone that they felt like they were superior all this time, and really it's like, no, you actually just right where you belong. This is what you deserve, and that's a hard pill to swallow as well, especially when you feel entitled to something more. Yeah, look at this. Wheel of Fortune. This is karmic. And, it's giving somebody that really, like I said, they feel an entitlement to happiness. It's like, shouldn't everybody get to have the life that they desire? And it's like, yeah, but depending on what you put into that fate, you don't get to just treat people like shit and then decide that you get to live the life of your dreams. Like this is not how universal law works. So it really, your fortune is only as favorable as what you have invested into it. In the grand scheme of things, the hard work and dedication and effort, and again, choices and decisions that you've made building up to this fateful event or this fateful moment. And it could, like I said, it really could be someone that has even reached a so-called peak of success in some way, shape, or form, and is just completely dissatisfied with it, with what they do, with who they're surrounded by, who they're entangled with, and maybe even has this facade of a happy life going for themselves that, like I said, is everything that they deserve, because this is what they worked for and what they asked for, but is really not at all what they want in their heart and soul. But there's something about it here with the Wheel of Fortune that is fair, that is karmic, that is like justified in a sense. Oh, wow, my goodness. That's that on that. This is what it really is given. 5 of Pentacles. Misery. like a miserable existence or miserable entanglement, entrapment. And literally, like, no matter how much someone has gained materially, still feeling like it's not enough. Still feeling like the poorest card in the deck is the Five of Pentacles. Even worse than the Two of Pentacles, because at least there's a balancing happening, maybe even a little struggle or juggle, but there's, you know, there's some hope for leveling out there at the Two of Pentacles. The Five is just like, either you don't, like, you could even have things, like I said, and it still feel like a living nightmare, you know? Or you could have finances but have more expenses than resources, you know? Like, there's more five than it is a two, but there's something quite lackluster about this life with the five. You could even, this could even be someone that's just unwell, you know, physically, emotionally, mentally, in any way, shape, or form. There's just a lack of wellness here and contentment for sure about what someone has created ultimately for themselves, thinking that they had taken, you know, that they were on a right path, you know what I mean, or doing the most profitable thing for themselves, because there was an expectation here to always have access to a Ten of Cups and a Wheel of Fortune. Like, somebody felt like their luck would always prevail in the end, you know, like no matter what they did, how they operated, how they carried themselves, how they treated other people, there was something self-assured about this person, or just maybe delusional, I don't know, about what things would ultimately amount to, no matter what, for them. And it's like, it's none of that. It's even worse than what they could have ever imagined for themselves. Like, it could almost even seem unfair, like unreasonable, for them to be experiencing such despair, you know, at such a grave level. Like, somebody almost feeling like they've been forsaken by the divine, maybe having some type of amnesia, or again, just disassociation with how they have created this experience for themselves. They could, at this point, this is somebody that can't even see, can't even take that level of accountability. It's got to be somebody else's fault, somebody else's doing, some unnatural reason, you know. It's like, no, it's just karma. Yeah, and they feel they're full of despair with this King of Cups. It's like, remember I was saying, you know, the Ten of Cups was the first cups we had. Everything else was material or kinetic energy, or even the swords. But now this is somebody that's actually in their feels, like fully in their emotional body. But unfortunately, it's an emotional, like it's like a cesspool, you know, like they're in their emotional body, but what they're swimming in is toxic, you know. So, and then it's like, you still have to keep your head above water and not drown, you know, in that cesspool of emotions and maybe self-loathing or sadness, or regret. What else could be? because with the Five of Pentacles and the King of Cups, that's just giving somebody that is, to me, like deeply in a state of emotional imbalance. And I feel like it's only the king to express the intensity of it. And maybe that someone is still doing their best to manage, you know, the despair, or manage themselves in those deep waters. But as I said before, it's like they're floundering because they're not realizing their part in it all. They're not realizing the source of their presence, you know, or their present circumstances. And it also could be somebody kind of learning to recondition their emotional intelligence the hard way. You know, they're coming to the fruition of that intelligence and that mastery of their emotional nature, of compassion, of kindness, whatever it is they were lacking way back here, empathy, sympathy, grace, let's say, certainly. But the way that they're coming to terms with that truth of where they are lacking or deficient, and also where they may have been distorted in some ways, is through some trial and tribulation. So there's that. But let's say, yeah, here's the Fool card and the Four of Pentacles. Yeah, so there's a new beginning. There's a new beginning. But I feel like this new beginning, and if anything, like I feel like it's like this, you know, it's this new beginning is how, as I just said, how someone is coming to terms with what they've been holding on to and holding near and dear to their person and to their identity, maybe what they have been defining themselves by and measuring themselves by in this case, and there being a disconnection from that stability because there is an awakening now to the fact that there is no stability in that. Everything that they built a foundation on that they thought was secure, even to feel secure about, you know, maybe having money, having position, having power, having affluence, feeling superior, like all the things that they built their self-esteem on is quaking, you know, and they're having to build new foundations and literally start from scratch to do so, you know, which the challenge is doing all of that while also being deep in an emotional pool that feels all consuming. Because also here with the with the King of Cups and the Five of Pentacles, it goes back to the beginning of where I was saying somebody really considering the opportunities that they missed, the chances that they lost, the people that they passed up on or passed over or messed over, you know, that they took advantage of or took for granted, the opportunities that they had to actually enhance their character in a productive way that, you know, they completely detached from, you know, disassociated from. All of that is now the baggage and the pressure that someone, it's like literally having to kind of breathe underwater for some people, keeping your head above the turmoil and the cesspool and whirlpool of emotions and regrets and guilt and shame and all the things that would naturally bring you down, you know, without that just work against us as human beings, but then it's like intensified because of someone's choices and actions and resolve to neglect that aspect of themselves and learn to navigate it and even master it when the tide was low, so to speak. But now the tide is high, the current is ripping, and someone is still at a point of a new beginning, almost without choice, really, at this point, having to find, a new coast of security, a new foundation of stability to stabilize themselves or to plant their feet upon. And it's no small feat, even when you have nothing but sunny skies ahead of you, a sunny horizon, a clear future, or a clear pathway. But, it's a different challenge when you're having to actually find the strength and courage to detach from the past to fully embrace the future. But for sure, for anybody that still has an opportunity for a fresh start, like I still feel like that's someone that's blessed and highly favored. It's just a matter of whether or not they see themselves in that light, like to disillusion themselves from that false light that they were projecting for the sake of appearances or applause or approval, where they were holier than thou or this superior specimen of a creature, man or woman, to now actually seeing their preciousness in the divine, in a divine aspect, that they've been preserved to begin anew. Like that's the transformation of perspective that ultimately would carry someone over, to a more peaceful and calm shore. And hopefully they be a changed person that is in a position to attract those, pure desires of their heart upon arrival. Ultimately just getting to do over what everybody's has done on the back end to acquire that true, authentic and organic high priestess energy, where experiences before now have afforded that quality of expression, or that quality of identity. It's the same invitation. We all get it. Some have just taken, have been an earlier RSVP, and some are just now getting around to to opening, that envelope and responding, accordingly and righteously, no doubt. So no matter which end of the spectrum you could be on, it still requires a great deal of faith and fortitude and dedication to continue to see your way through, because this three-dimensional plane is not for the faint at heart, that's for sure. So what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And for all those that are on a new leg of the journey or beginning a new path altogether, good luck and Godspeed, because we all need it just the same across the board to be initiated or to maintain and continue on a righteous path. So that's that. Took a bit of a that was spirit, like, channel that energy this way. Oh God, yes indeed. And so I did, and so I shall. All right, so anyway, I hope you continue to enjoy your day and your week. I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.